Okay, so today's notes are a continuation of what we did last Friday. We did parallel lines. And what do we know about the slopes of parallel lines? They're the same. Okay, the slopes of parallel lines are the same. Today we're going to talk about perpendicular lines. First of all, just so you know, when you see this symbol that kind of looks like an upside down T, that just means perpendicular. And the slopes of perpendicular lines have a product of -1. What does the word product mean we're doing? Multiplication, that's right. Okay, so for example, if I had a slope of 2 and a line that was perpendicular had a slope of -1/2, if you multiply 2 times -1/2, what do you get?
What does EG mean?
EG means for example. Exempla gratia, it's from the Latin. Okay, so if you look at those, you've got a 2 and a -1/2. What do you notice about how those numbers are related? Do you notice anything about how those are related to each other?
They're even.
They are both even, sort of. I guess if a fraction can be even. Okay, well, see how one's positive and one's negative? So they're opposites, right? And what would I do to a 2 to make it into a 1/2? What do you call it? What do you call it when, what is it? It's the reciprocal, right? So basically your slopes are going to be opposite reciprocals whenever you have perpendicular slopes, okay? So if I tell you the slope of the first line is 2, the perpendicular one, you flip it over and make it negative, it's -1/2. If I tell you the slope of the first line was 4, it would be -1/4. You flip it over and make it the opposite. What if the original line was -2/3? Then what would we do? Flip it over and make it positive. 3/2, exactly. Okay. Okay, so the other thing you need to know is that all horizontal lines are perpendicular to all vertical lines. And hopefully you remember a horizontal line has a slope of 0, so that would be y equal to a number. So for example, y equals 5. And vertical lines are undefined. That's where it's x equal a number. So for instance, x equals 3. So y equals 5 would be perpendicular to x equals 3. Any questions so far? Okay. All right, so this first example, we're going to identify which lines are perpendicular. I'm going to do like I did before. I'm going to label them. We'll call that line A, line B, C, and D. Okay, so again, if you can't remember what's vertical and what's horizontal, and you want to figure out how to graph a line, so suppose I want to graph y equals 3, you can always make yourself a table and put nothing but 3 in for y, and just put random numbers for x. So if I do 0, 1, and 2, 0, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, those are all points. It's going to be a horizontal line. And you can do the same thing with x equals -2. X can only be a -2. And again, you can put in random numbers for y. And so we would have those points, and it's vertical. So y equals 3 was line A, and x equals -2 was line B. Are those perpendicular to each other? Thumbs up or thumbs down. Are those perpendicular, A and B? Yes, they are. Okay, so I know A is perpendicular to B. So that's part of my answer. Let's check out the other two, though, and see what we've got. On line C, I have a slope of 3, and line D, I have a slope of negative 1/3. So are those opposite reciprocals?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. And you can also always check the product, too, and just see 3 times negative 1/3. That's negative 3/3. That equals negative 1. So you know that those are perpendicular. So C is perpendicular to D as well. Okay, any questions there? All right, on your whiteboards, I want you guys to tell me which lines, if any, are perpendicular. This will be line A, line B, line C, and line D. So check to see which ones are perpendicular. And show me your answer on your whiteboards. Okay, so if you look at line A, we have y equals negative 4. So y equals negative 4 is down here. And then if you look at line C, x equals 3. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. X equals 3. So that's this line here. Those are perpendicular to each other. So A is perpendicular to C. But we also can look at the other two lines. What's the slope on B? Line B has a slope of? Nope, 5. There's the slope on line B. What's the slope on line D? Negative 1/5. Are those opposite reciprocals? Yes, they are. So we can also say that B is perpendicular to D. Okay? So now we're going to write an equation in slope-intercept form. What's my slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. And it's going to have to go through the point 410, and it's going to be perpendicular to the line given by y equals 3x plus 8. So what's really important when we're dealing with perpendicular lines is you first have to find the perpendicular slope. When we did parallel lines, we just used the same slope. But we can't do that with perpendicular. They don't have the same slope. Their slopes are what? If they're perpendicular, the slopes are opposite reciprocals. Everybody, what are they?
Opposite reciprocals.
Right. Okay, so if the slope of my original line here is a 3, what is my perpendicular slope going to have to be? Negative 1/3. I flip it over, I make it the opposite. And then my x sub 1, y sub 1 is going to be 410. So we can plug it into the point slope form. Y minus 10 equals negative 1/3 times x minus 4. And then I distribute. So y minus 10 equals negative 1/3 x plus 4/3, because a negative times a negative is positive, and 4 times 1/3 is 4/3. All right, then I need to add 10 to both sides. And so if I want to make it over 3, 3 times 10 is 30, right? Okay, and so now I have y is equal to negative 1/3 x plus 34 over 3. Or if you want to make it a mixed number, you can. You can say y equals negative 1/3 x plus 11 1/3. Okay, either one of those would be fine. This one's a little bit better for graphing, though, than the improper fraction. Okay, any questions about what I did? So it's exactly the same as parallel lines, except for what did we have to do differently? What did we have to do differently from when we did parallel lines? We had to take the opposite reciprocal first, okay? All right, so this next one is for you guys to do on your whiteboards. I want the equation of a line that's going through to negative 1, and it's perpendicular to y equals 2x minus 5. So first, before you do the whole problem, first show me what you got for your perpendicular slope so you know you're doing it right before you do a bunch of work. Okay, so we took the opposite reciprocal for the slope. So since the original one was 2, it's negative 1/2. Okay, your x sub 1, y sub 1 is 2, negative 1. Okay, and you go from there. Okay, so you plugged it in, and you should get y equals negative 1/2 x. And that concludes this video.